Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, our guest is Alvin Carlos, who is the managing partner of District Capital. Welcome, Alvin.
Hey Gary, thanks for being.
Sure. So, Alvin, tell us, how did you get into the financial arena?
So interestingly, Gary, I used to work for a nonprofit here in Washington, D.C., doing some social justice work, but I've always been interested in personal finance and investing. So that's how I would relax on a Saturday morning, reading personal finance books and magazines, reading about Warren Buffett's investments. And it just became kind of a hobby in the beginning. And then my coworker started asking me, hey, Alvin, what do I do with my student loans? What do I do with my 401k? And I just liked educating my peers about that. And eventually I found a volunteer opportunity to help middle class families with their personal finance. And then eventually I was like, oh, what if I did this as a job? And I didn't realize there's a job called a
Right.
financial advisor or financial planner. And that's when I began to get my CFP courses and CFA courses and eventually took the leap and changed careers.
Right. That's it. That's pretty bold to do, after that. So, um, can you explain the model that that District Capital kind of follows when it comes to their clients and what they do for their clients?
Mm. So most financial advisors try to work with retirees and they manage their assets. Usually they have a minimum of 1 million or 3 million. But when I started doing this, who I really wanted to help was my peers, my community. And usually they're in the younger cohort of 30s and 40s
Hmm.
and either working for a company or starting a small business. And they don't really know where to turn to about their questions on personal finance and investing. And so we built District Capital to focus mostly with that cohort of 30s and 40s professional small business owners. And they don't necessarily have a minimum amount of assets or wealth. And essentially, our business model these days are they just pay us a flat fee each month or each year.
Um, what are some of the key tax strategies that you recommend for the small business owners to help them reduce their tax burden through investing?
When I talk about taxes with small business owners, I get a lot of their attention because they become that how do I lower my taxes? I'm getting killed by taxes.
Sure.
So the if you're a solopreneur and you don't have any W-2 employees, one very interesting way to lower your taxes is to create a solo 401k where you can put a lot of money, like you can put 23,000 as an employee and then more as an employer, and then actually more if you try to do what's called a mega backdoor route. That's getting really technical, but you can save probably more than $10,000 in taxes if you put money in a solo 401k. And that's if you're a solopreneur. If you have a business and you have W-2 employees and you don't have a 401k yet, you can create a 401k. We typically recommend a safe harbor 401k so you don't have to deal with all these testing requirements by the IRS.
Hmm.
And with that, you can also put money as if you were working at a large company. You can put money towards your own 401k. And again, you can save money, taxes you can save taxes either now or in the future, depending on how you contribute. And it's also a really nice benefit for your employees.
Right. Um, how do you guys, because you're saying you're working with the 30s and 40-year olds, with this, how do you help them balance the debt management side of things being, the student loans, the houses and cars and credit cards and everything else, but then also trying to help them, save for retirement and for their future?
Mhm. That's always the tricky part, Gary, and we try to distinguish debt between debt that's really high interest rate. So you have these credit cards or high interest personal loans, and then you have quote unquote good debt like a mortgage. Student loans are also usually on the low side of interest rate, like 5, 6, 7%. And so we usually work with our clients and try to help them tackle those credit card debt first or personal loans. So that involves a lot of budgeting and cash flow, understanding their cash flow. And once we help them pay off their credit card debt, or personal loans, then we start trying to balance. Okay, you have these other goals of, okay, you want to save for a house, you want to save for retirement, and you're saving for a wedding. And how do we balance that between paying off your mortgage or student loans? And so it becomes a discussion after that in terms of what's more important to them.
Right. What do you see as some of the common mistakes that those 30 and 40-year-olds are making when it comes to, debt management, investing, and being able to save for the future?
Mhm. One is they are not contributing to their 401k because they're focused on the now, the present. They wanna go have dinner with their friends or travel. They're leaving money on the table. Most 401ks, most employers offer a matching when an employee contributes to their 401k. And so that's free money that you might be leaving on the table if you're not contributing to a 401k. If you're starting out in your career, either as an employee or a business owner, and you're not making a ton of money, then a Roth IRA is a great way to save for the future because it's a way for you to invest and grow that money without paying taxes on all the money that you're going to make. So, and not everyone can contribute to that because there are income limits. So that's another common mistake, is not taking advantage of this great vehicle called the Roth IRA to save and build their wealth in the future tax free.
What other strategies do you have for business owners that are looking at, okay, do I reinvest this money back in my business versus building personal wealth?
Yes,
What other strategies do you have?
that's always a tension when we work with our small business owner clients. A lot of small business owners, including me, are very passionate about our business. We want to grow our business. We want to help the people that we want to help. And usually we want to devote most or a lot of our resources towards building our business. And I think I try to explain to our clients, everybody understands the concept of diversification, and it also applies here. If you're putting all your wealth in your business, and let's say your business is growing and it's now worth 1 million or 2 million, and but if your wealth is mainly tied with that, then there's a risk, right? What's going to happen if there's something, another pandemic happens or what have you, where your business gets impacted. So it's very important to also build your wealth in other ways. So as I mentioned, you can save and invest through a 401k or through an IRA or through a brokerage account, such that you have different buckets of wealth that are growing over time.
Yeah, I find lots of times, also when people are reinvesting back in their companies, that that reinvestment that they're putting back in isn't necessarily the right thing because they're not really intentionally growing the business. They just think that, hey, I'm supposed to keep putting back. And they don't have just like on the personal, they don't have that plan set and okay, how is this going to help me actually grow the business? So I think it's one of those things, lots of times you have to be intentional in whatever you do to be able um to grow this. And then on the lots of times then the business owners think that their business is worth a lot more than
Mm,
what the market says it is.
that's right.
So that's definitely something we run into, lots of times with the clients also.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm also learning this as a small business owner in terms of what factors affect how our businesses are valued. So I'm learning about, okay, is our revenues recurring or non-recurring? Are we
Right.
growing fast or growing slow? So those are the factors that we need to think about as a business owner when we try to estimate the value of our business.
Right, right. Um, if you were able to talk to your 18-year-old self,
Oh,
what advice would you give yourself?
great question, Gary. As an 18-year-old, I feel like I still have a lot to learn. So I would focus on educating myself, personal finance, investing, and I was never really interested actually on running a business. That was the last thing that I wanted to do back then, but I find it really fascinating now. I would probably like get a business course or like get some practical exposure on how to run a business because I think, yeah, personal finance and investing and growing the business, I feel like those are the best ways to grow your wealth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think many of us as business owners, we may have dreamt at some point in time that we were going to be a business owner type thing. But I think it's one of those things, just like you were doing something totally different and people were asking you your advice on something. And then next thing you see, it's like, okay, well, I have enough work here that I can kind of, start my own business. And then you have other, people being employees of yours now that you're building, helping them build a future for themselves. And I
Mhm.
think that many times as business owners, we're not thinking about our employees and how we're helping them build their future.
Mm,
I think you made the comment earlier about the 401k plans.
mhm,
And one of the things that I see a lot of people doing, especially the younger generation, is that they have a plan at work, but they're not contributing because nobody's talked to them about it.
mm,
And like you said, many times, business owners will contribute a certain percentage or whatever based
mhm,
on what you contribute.
mhm,
So, like you said, it's free money. So,
mhm,
at a minimum, advice for the younger listeners is at a minimum, make sure that you're putting away that amount to get that free money because it doesn't, if you don't do something, then you're not going to get it.
mhm,
So it's important. What when you're talking with those that are fresh out of college,
mhm.
that are starting work, what do you talk to them about on saving? Because many of them probably think, oh, I'm not making enough money to save.
Mhm.
What advice do you have for them, or what strategies do you get them to use?
Mhm. We always try to start out with what's important to them, what are their goals, because often that if they remember what they're trying to save for, then they become motivated and not just saving for saving's sake. So let's say, okay, I really want to buy my own place, a condo in 5 years. And so, okay, great. Now we have a goal, and now we can start thinking about how do we save for your down payment. And a lot of it is gonna come down to having a smart budgeting strategy. And this this budgeting, different types of people, they need different types of ways to save. Like some people are natural savers. They just don't
Right.
spend money, and then their bank account just grows over time. Some people, they need maybe an app to help them. We try to One of the ways we actually help clients budget is we try to we tell them to create three types of bank accounts. One checking for fixed expenses, one for variable expenses, and then one for saving. And so depending on what they're paying for, they can just get money from that bucket. It helps them psychologically if they're seeing those three buckets. And yeah, just I think find a way for them to save in terms of what works for them, and then just keep at it.
I think though, and I was smiling when you were saying budget because I'm constantly harping on create a budget for you personally, but then also for the business.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
if a couple things, if hey, at home, here's my budget. So then
Hmm.
I know, hey, this is how much money I need to bring home from work.
Hmm.
Then you're able to kind of help set your business budget also.
Yes.
But the other thing is that if you have that budget and something doesn't work right inside the budget, um, you need to make your shift there. But if you have that budget, that money's coming home, and like you said, you have places to put it. So then if this is your budget, you get that raise, then you already know it's like, hey, based on this raise, I can put so much more away as compared to just spending it. And I think I always tell people that a budget or that you create is kind of like a map. And if go on a trip and you just hop in the car and go, and you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. To me, budgeting is the same way because if you're just earning money and you don't know where you're spending it, then how are you going to be prepared for an emergency? So I think that that's always something. And if we're able to teach, our kids and younger people, that are first coming out of college about that saving, I think it's going to help them, a lot more in the long run.
Mm. I like your analogy about a map. It just gives you more visibility when you have a budget. And some people even don't like the term budget or so. So that's why sometimes we call it a spending and savings plan,
There you go.
like that. And we also try to frame it as paying yourself first.
Hmm.
Okay, I got this job and I'm bringing home X amount of money. Why don't I pay myself first? I'm going to save that money and then think about, okay, how do I spend the rest? And sometimes some people like that concept. And sometimes it involves making hard choices. Like I actually have a friend from church who's really financially savvy, and she was so passionate about paying off her student loans in, I don't know, 3 years or 5 years. And then she made this budget, and then she just decided to um like leave. She was renting by herself, and then she decided, you know what, I'm just gonna get a roommate and so I can slash my rent in half and just throw all this money towards my student loans. And then she achieved it. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, and like you said, I mean, when it comes to if it's a program, an app, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is, use whatever works for you, to do that. But I think it's important, like you said, is what are your goals?
Mm.
Because, like you said, there are some people that just are natural savers,
Mm.
but if you don't have that that goal or that reason to save, why are you saving? And I
Yes.
think it makes it, you have purpose, like, your friend that you're talking about from church
Mm.
was paying down the student loans, and
Mm.
that was her goal, and she did that, which is awesome. But it's, really, again, you're still putting together that plan,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Exactly.
you're implementing the plan.
Yeah,
So I think that that's, always something that's uh, important and helps you with your financial health.
that's right. And the concept of paying yourself first, Gary, also very much applies with small business owners. We were just discussing this in my group. I belong to an accelerator group of business owners of like, okay, we're bringing in this much revenue and expected profit. And so why don't I pay myself first? Like, let's say capture at least 10% of that towards
Yep.
myself. And when I think about, okay, what do I want to spend in 2025? And then it helps. Yeah, definitely
Right.
helps the visibility.
Right. So Alvin, what have I not asked you wish I had?
A lot of our clients ask us about economic uncertainties in the future, given the changing political landscape. So, um, and it's a tough topic right now because a lot of people are, trying to see what the future holds for them in terms of how it impacts the investment. And so yeah, that's one of the things that we're talking with clients right now in terms of what strategies should we be doing given these economic uncertainties.
How's that crystal ball working there? I
Well, obviously there's opportunities, there's always opportunities
Sure.
in, right? So if the new administration extends the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, so we're going to pay less taxes. I'm really hoping that they extend the tax cut, the qualified business owner deduction for small
Right.
business owners, because
Right.
we're engine of the economy. And so there are opportunities there, and there's also risks if they enact tariffs that will raise the cost of things that we buy. It's
Yep.
gonna raise prices and cause inflation. And but in the end, if you look at the data from, I'll mention two things. If you look at the data from past um, administrations, either Democrat or Republican, stocks still perform well in both regimes and different combinations.
Right.
And also, if we end up having a higher inflation, then stocks are still the best way to grow your money because companies, and we know this because we're business owners, you can always pass on the cost to your consumers. They may not always be happy, but like for example, Walmart, Home Depot have already said that if prices of foreign goods increase, they're gonna just pass it on to consumers. So companies will still make money, and if we own stocks, then we're part owners of those companies, and I think that's still the best way to grow your money.
Right. So, Alvin, if people like what they hear and they want to reach out to you, and have a conversation with you, how can they reach out to you?
So they can go to our website, districtcapital.net, and there's going to be a lot of information there about who we work with. We typically work with 30s and 40s who want to maximize their money. We have most of our clients want to retire by 55, whether they're professional or they're business owner. So, and yeah, if they're interested, they can contact us. There's a contact us button there or schedule a free discovery call, and we'll be happy to talk to any of your listeners, Gary.
Great, great. Alvin, I really appreciate your time today, and your knowledge, that you've passed on to our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me, Gary.
Great. Hey, this week our guest was Alvin Carlos, who is the managing partner for District Capital, and I'll see you guys next week.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.